And we're recording. Hello, Dani. How are ya?
Hello, doing good. Ikaw ba? How are you?
Good. Just came back from an event. We're still adjusting to having events with social distancing and COVID. Yeah. So
How is that
it's
like
kind of
though?
so you maintain space, and there's a maximum number of people. And yeah, that's all right. We're learning to live with it.
Yeah, I mean here in the
uh,
Philippines also we don't do physical events because it's still quarantine. We're the country with the longest quarantine.
how long has it been?
How many months has it been? Since March, April, May, June, July, August. 5 to 6 months in
Wow.
quarantine.
Level 4 or?
It's more of and we went through very intense quarantine wherein everything was closed, even the malls. So
Mm.
everybody had to scramble and get everything that they need to be in the work from home setup. So everything was closed for at least 1, 2, or 3 months, if I can recall. And when things opened up, everything became okay. But then again, cases started rising again, so they had to go back to a stricter quarantine session, and then now we're a little more open again, but knowing the government, it's quiet here and there, and there's no guarantee that the government is going to do anything about it, really.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone's grappling with this. How do people survive without the malls? Because when I lived there, I remember malls are like part of life.
Yeah, I mean, after a while they opened the malls, and we have to have quarantine passes during that time.
Mm.
So one household uh can what's allowed per household is just one person going out to go grocery shopping or going to the mall. And it's
Mm.
required to go with the pass in
Mm.
order to get inside. And then when you get inside, you have to have your hands cleaned via alcohol, and then they're going to
Mm.
check your temperature. So it's all the same when you go to entrances because, where I live in Makati, three malls are side by side, so you have to go through each checkpoint that way. It's hassle, but I know that the logic is there. It's just that uh, I guess the government should really take a stand on how to do things properly because as I see it, we're directionless in a way. I mean,
Okay. Yeah.
it's very how do you say this? I don't know where things are going. Like
Yeah.
people are doing their best to not panic, to find ways in order to keep their mind off the things that are happening. And
Yeah.
it's not helping that the government here isn't really giving us a concrete plan on how to do things. So it's more of let's just do our best to not spread the disease. Yeah, that's the
Uh,
mindset. Like, don't go out because we'd rather just stay at home and not risk a lot of people. Because I don't know, for me, there are lots of numbers already. I mean, cases are going up every day, and at the back of my mind, I don't think it's accurate. The numbers posted on the platforms that the government has, I don't know if it's accurate because knowing Philippine government, sometimes it can be made up just to make it look like everything's going to be fine. But I'm just at that point
mm.
wherein that's the only thing I can do. It's like I'm going to sigh because I'm not going to rely on them anymore. It's more of that dismissal. I know it's not a good thing, but what can you do? That's
Yeah.
you feel powerless during this moment. So I don't know, maybe I start distracting myself by empowering myself instead, instead of worrying of other things. Maybe
Mm.
that's the way I try to handle that disappointment or that powerless feeling, or the
Mm.
feeling of being not being able to do anything.
Mm. Speaking of which, doing what we can, we both presented at the Sugar and Spice virtual festival. I missed your session. How did it go? I missed
Oh,
attending your session. How did it go?
it was fun for me. It was my first time to present something in a workshop. I mean, in that way, I'm surprised that Martha did ask me to go into it, because I know I can teach people how to do rope. It's just that it's a different ball game when it comes to being a presenter for an online sex festival. And for me, for someone like me who doesn't have, the credibility that most of the people have there, like, Martha being a clinical sexologist, so she has the expertise, and then looking at the other presenters, I'm like, wow, I feel so empowered, but at the same time, there's this imposter feeling. Like,
Syndrome,
am
yeah.
I? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, am I really good enough for this? It was a mixed feeling. It's a mixed bag of emotions, wherein I was like happy and excited, but at the same time, there's this fear, not really fear, but anxiety that I might not be able to say what I want to say, to teach the way I want to teach. What if my lessons aren't good enough? What if the outlines that I did aren't clear, or maybe there are so many questions that they have to ask that I might not have answers to. So there was so much looking within that I did, because I felt like, of course, when you're not so sure about the situation, you tend to overthink things. And I was overthinking. But during that overthinking, it was more of, do I deserve this?
Mm.
Do I know what I'm doing? Why do people keep on asking me to do these things when I feel like I'm not ready? And then another side of me, or I listen to different sides of myself, or different opinions within myself. So it's not always just this kind of thought. I also look into the other kind of thought, wherein I'm thinking about, I do deserve this, because they wouldn't ask me, or Martha wouldn't ask me if she didn't believe in my abilities. um the opportunity for growth is there, because
Mm.
I already teach people physically. What more if I can transform my teaching from physical means to online teaching? That can be a
Mm.
new way to approach teaching, and being able to be eloquent with how I'm going to teach it, how I'm going to say things. And it's a bigger audience, because most of my
Mm.
audience are just here in the Philippines. And then to see that my reach was beyond my age, because most of the time I talk to people my age. So seeing
Mm.
a different audience, seeing a different demographic, it's different. And for me,
Mm.
what made me happy about it is that I met new friends. I met people who have the same ideas as me, or the same openness to, sexuality, sex, kink, or people who are open to learning more about it, especially those who don't know what kink is, who don't know what pervertibles are, who don't know the background of what BDSM is, and to open their minds was such a blessing in disguise. So I I looked into it, and I'm like, no, because she believes in you, you have to believe in yourself too. You deserve this. I mean, opportunities like this don't come often. Might as well go for it, get that experience. And by participating in something like this, which is once in a lifetime.
Mm.
I mean, the event can go on again and again, but the first Sugar and Spice Festival, and it's an Asian event for Asians, and being able to be one who presents kink and being able to be one of the youngest to present
Mm.
was an amazing thing. and
Mm.
and it's amazing because I never knew that my life would pan out in this way. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and there was this second guessing because I was like, oh, I only have 3 years of experience. What does 3 years of experience um have against people with 10, 50, and 20 years of experience over me? But then again, I realized that while I was teaching, people were learning more from me than I was learning from them in a way. So
Yeah.
it's more of a perspective thing wherein, I feel like they're learning so much from me. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm more exposed, maybe because my experience tells me these things, and then being able to share that experience in a way that they can understand, that they can, use in their lives. That's a wonderful thing. I never knew that just because my age is like this, just because my experience is like this, doesn't discount the fact that I may know more things about what I'm passionate about than the person I'm teaching. So
Mm.
it's a wide variety of emotions. So it was a nice thing to
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. Don't worry. Like I think even the most experienced presenters also have the imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Yeah.
It never goes away. And I think if it goes away, that's the time you have to be worried if you're no longer doubting yourself. Because I think doubt is good because it kind of instills humility and to keep on improving oneself. One goes astray when one is too confident, I think. So I think it's good that what I'm really curious about is how did you get into this? I wasn't aware that there was a kink scene in the Philippines. Good on you for being
Ah.
in it.
I mean, I was aware ever since I was 18 because my friend introduced it to me. He introduced Shibari, or Japanese rope
Mm.
bondage, to me when I was 18. And he told me that, oh, there's a community. So if you want to get into it, you just have to tell me. But during that time, I was living with my family. So, everything was hush hush. You don't tell
Hush,
anyone
hush.
anything. Yeah. And,
Rope burns, rope burns.
yeah, rope burns or scratches on the back right there. The baby stuff that gangsters do. I mean, little bruises here and there, bite marks.
Mm,
So, of course, you don't show those things, especially if you're with people who aren't aware of what you're
mm,
doing and who might say things that aren't really good about it. So, after that experience with him when I was 18, after a few years after, I started looking for it from my boyfriends back then, wherein like, please learn how to tie because I got tied. It was so amazing. It was fun. And they said no, and they weren't into it. So I'm like, okay, fine. So after 4 years, I got back into the scene because I broke up with my then ex boyfriend or then boyfriend, and I said I want to go back. I want to experience being tied again, and I want to see what it's like because I enjoyed it. I want to find people who can do that again to me. So I went into the community because of my friend again. I reached out and said, "Hey, I want to learn more about this community." And then he brought me in, and then from there, my world expanded like crazy. I mean, I learned so many things in the last 3 years that I've been practicing it. Yeah, that's the beginning. And now that I am looking back at it, I never thought that I would be someone who educates people about it. All I knew about myself is that I'm very vocal about things. I love doing these things, and then I love talking about it. I love telling people how beautiful it is, telling people what it is, what it isn't. And then from there on, people started wanting to get me for talks or wanting me to teach them how I do things because the way I do it makes it interesting, makes them want to do it. So I feel like it was a natural progression from just being able to just be tied and be the one tying to me telling people, oh, this is what I'm doing is this. It's fun, it's amazing. And then it expanded like
Mm.
crazy.
Mm-hmm. How would you, to someone who don't know anything about this, how would you describe Shibari to a muggle?
To a muggle. Actually,
Yeah.
for me, the best way to tell them is that, you know, can you imagine what the hug feels like? Because that's how rope feels like on me, or whenever I tie another person, whenever I get tied, it feels like a hug. And
Mm.
when I say it in that way, then they realize, oh, what does a hug feel like? It feels
Mm.
snug. It's not too tight. It feels as if you're held, you're cradled, and then these happy feelings come out. And then I say, yeah, that's what it is. Essentially, that's what it is. Unless the intention is to hurt you, it shouldn't hurt at all.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what I tell most people. And then they ask me, why do you like it?
Mm.
Why what inspired you to do this? You know, what you said a while ago. So it became a thing wherein I just wanted to tell them the benefits of it. Uh, of course, I tell them about the precautions, the safety concerns when it comes to it. It's not to discourage them, but it's to show them that yes, the emotions or the feelings of being hugged are there, but the risk is also there. So how do you navigate through it? I tell them that I do put my body in a lot of stress because I want to get into it in that way. But if the person I'm going to play with or the person I'm talking to doesn't like pain, I tell them there is another way for you to feel the rope or to feel tied without having to feel that pain that I look for, or the pain that I'm willing to go through just to get into a certain headspace. So it's allowing them to process it in a way that takes away the scary or the not so good aspects of it, because I realize that not a lot of people are into it or are afraid of it because there are preconceived notions. That's why whenever I talk to another person, oh, what I ask the questions, what comes into mind when I tell you about the rope?
Mm.
So they tell me about their preconceived notions. Oh, it's going to hurt. It's
Mm.
kidnapping. There is no consent. You know, the typical things. And then before I get into the tying whatsoever, I tell them, oh, you know, this is how I do it. Not a lot of people tend to tell the people who are curious about the ways or how someone ties. Mostly people think that when you tie, it's mostly just wrapping someone in rope. But there are
That's an art.
methods to it, there is intention to it, there is care, there is love, there is respect in the way we do it. So I tackle all those things before the actual tying. Or if they don't want to get tied by rope, I use my body, because
Mm.
in essence my body is the rope, or
Mm.
my body is the one moving the person. The rope is mostly an extension of myself.
Mm.
So
Mm.
it's me navigating or dancing with them. So
Mm.
the way I do rope, or the way I tie someone, is that they feel as if they're being danced by me. So it's a
Mm. Mm.
conversation, like, oh, where do you want to go? If I lead you, how much are you willing to let go, or how much are you willing to, you know, move with me? So
Mm.
it's a matter of just navigating whether or not they're willing to be pushed in a certain way, to be moved in a certain way. So it's a conversation. I tell
Mm.
them that it's a conversation between me and my partner, and most of the time it's not what I want, it's what the person wants. Because the limits of the rigger are the limits of the one I'm tying or the one
Mm.
being
Mm.
tied. Because what if they're not as flexible as some of my partners?
Mm.
I won't force them into a position that's not comfortable for them because it will cause them pain. It will help, it will take them away from that headspace of relaxing to a headspace of being given pain, and that's not something a lot of people would desire. And it has so many elements that people just bypass whenever they want to die. That's why a lot of the times I ask people what their intention is. What is your
Mm.
intention when you're going to tie? Because the intention in tying means that you navigate through that intention. Like if I'm
Mm.
going to help a person relax, I'm going to move them in a way that's very much slow moving, and very much being cradled by me, slow, small movements so that they can feel the little nudges that I do on their body. Because it is a communication thing. So I want to see whether or not they can listen to the small touches that I do. Or
Mm.
can they, if I push someone's earlobes here, because this is a pressure point. So if I
Mm.
press on someone's ears here, do they go up with me? Do they go up when I
Mm.
push them there? Or if they resist, maybe I can do something else to make it known for them that I'm trying to push them upwards. So it's
Mm.
me checking in
Mm.
with
Mm.
themselves, with their body. And it's amazing when they start noticing the little things that I'm doing and being able to anticipate and relax in the knowing that I'm going to take care of them. It's actually a
Mm.
beautiful thing. And sometimes when the connection is there, people don't realize that I'm already tying or that I'm done tying. It's
Mm.
that magical because sometimes a session means that it's not serious. Sometimes I just talk to them while I tie them. So it's more of like a hangout thing where I'm like, oh, how
Mm.
was your day? And then I start tying them. Or sometimes, even without tying them, I place their hands at, for example, in front of their bodies, wherein I just place their hands. Actually, sometimes without the rope. I
Yeah.
just place their hands like that, and then I just hug them, and then later I'm just talking to them, and they're still in that position. And then it makes me realize that sometimes if they're very trusting and if they know your process, it's very automatic for them to go to that space wherein, oh,
Mm.
I don't really need rope anymore because you already feel tied to me, or
Mm.
you already feel as if I'm tying you, or
Mm.
if I am tying them, their mind is already in a happy place that when I'm done, I just stare at them. They keep on
Mm.
talking and talking, and then I tell them, oh, I I haven't tied you in a while. You're already bound, and I am actually done. And then they're like, oh my god, I never noticed. And there are those moments wherein it's fun to see them in that way, but there are also times wherein I love it when they do notice that, or the intention is not me talking to them, but it's me and the person being silent and just navigating through with each other. And most people think that when I tie, it's almost always about knots or almost always about the pattern. Sometimes I tie without pattern. Sometimes I just wrap them around in rope. And
Mm.
that in itself is already a journey. And
Mm.
sometimes sessions are free flowing, or most of the time for me, it's free flowing. There is no goal. There is
Mm.
no no prize at the end kind of thing. Wherein,
Mm.
of course, there are sessions wherein, oh, I want to practice the certain tie and I want to suspend you and let's see if you can hold it. okay, that's a practice session, but in a session wherein I want to free flow and then they want to free flow, there is no definite goal. Sometimes it
Mm.
lasts from just 3 to 5 minutes to sometimes 30 minutes, just because it's fun, just because the flow is there, just because the energies are connecting, and you just want to express it again and again and again, and moving through different poses, moving through different movement, body, the body manipulations, etc. So it's actually a varied experience in every way, because even if I tie the same tie again and again on another person, the body and the mindset is always different. Like, I
Mm.
cannot
Mm.
replicate that same session, because the time and the mindset and the circumstances will be different each and every time.
Mm.
So it's always unique, and it's always a new experience.
Mm. It's like you can play with the Heraclitus. No one can step on the same river twice, so no one can be tied in the same way
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm. What else is happening in the? Do you do other kinds of stuff aside from Shibari?
Actually, I do nude model. Like, I was a
Mm-hmm.
nude model before I went back into King. But the funny thing is that I was just modeling for 1 month, nude modeling for 1 month before I went into King.
Is that for
So,
sketching, drawing people who draw, or something else?
actually, the first time I did it was for a photograph. And then the
Mm.
next few times, people started wanting to sketch me. Some
Mm.
people wanted to sculpt me for their project. So it was a mixed bag, and it people think nude modeling is easy. It isn't.
Nah, nah,
especially
yeah, yeah.
especially if you're going to model for artists who sketch, you have to
You have
stay
to,
still
yeah,
for a
show
long
the,
time. Yeah.
and you have to show the shapes, the the
Yeah.
poses. Yeah.
I mean, there was one time I had cumulatively, I posed for 2 hours without moving. But it wasn't a full 2 hours straight. It's more of like 25 minutes break, 25 minutes break, 25 minutes. So it was so grueling. It was so tiring. It 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 numbed my mind. I had to. It's like meditating. With
Yeah.
meditating, you just sit still and you just do it. Or, well, for me, when I meditate, I dance when I meditate. So that's another thing. But
Yeah.
it's like meditating in different poses. So my mind goes to different places. There was one time, because I love singing and I was part of a choir before, and during that time I was trying to practice church songs for an event we had at the office. So while I was posing, I was singing Ama Namin in my head. I was like,
Genius. So good.
no, because it helped my mind wander, and it
Yeah.
helped me not feel the pain that I was experiencing. I mean, to be in the same pose for 25 minutes straight is already taxing. What more if you have to do it 6 times,
Yeah,
25
yeah.
minutes each time? So you're like, you're numb. So I was like, what choice do I have? I'd rather just sing this pain away than to think about, okay, what time is it? What time is it? What time is it? So
But
yeah.
would it be funny if you thought you were singing in your head, but you were actually singing? They'll go, what the hell's going on?
Actually, I was singing it very, very quietly. Like, I know I can hear it, or sometimes I just hum it inside my head.
Like, is she trying to make me feel guilty for looking at her body while she's singing church songs?
Yeah, but it was fun. It was a good experience. It was for an oil painting class that my high
Oh
school
wow.
friend did. So it was a reunion between me and my high school friend actually. So she went up to me and asked me online if I could model for her, and I was like, yeah, sure. And then we started talking before the session, and she said, ever since we were in high school, I knew you would do it. But when we went but when we went into college, you bloomed into this person, and I'm actually happy to see you get out of your shell, or this is your true self. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet of you. So it was amazing to see people look at me in that way, wherein they already knew it was this wild person, but they never knew the extent of it, and I never knew the extent of it until I went into the world, until I started doing, being an adult, having my own place, having a space wherein I can be myself and express myself and find myself. So
Hmm.
the person you're seeing now is a way, way, way different animal than the person my friends saw back then.
I
I
mean,
was reserved still.
but
I
she
was
could tell,
reserved still.
right? Uh,
Yeah. I
did
was
you go to an all
already.
girls school or?
Yeah.
Mm.
I did go to an all girls school. I mean, I
And
feel like all girls schools bring out
the wild
this
side.
side. Yeah, with the wild ones.
Yeah.
But I feel like it is really me. It's just that because of certain expectations being placed in a box wherein you can't do this because you can't because sometimes people just do that, or maybe the upbringing that I came from, people expect so many things of you that we tend to not question as Filipinos. Did you ever get that mindset wherein you can't do something because religion says you can't, or society says you can't, and you have to conform without asking why it is that way? So here in the Philippines, whenever you start questioning things that people are saying, you're seen as bastos or someone rude for asking those things that you don't know you don't know what you're talking about because we're older and you're not. So it's that kind of thing wherein I'm asking because I want to know the answer, the reason
Yeah,
why
yeah,
things are
yeah.
being done. And here in the Philippines, they just say basta just because.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So now that I'm grown up, or now that I'm older, I start questioning things before I do something. Like,
Mm.
why why are people talking about sex in a taboo way? I started questioning that. Or why can't we talk back to our parents? Not really talk back, but talk to our parents in a way that I have an opinion,
Mm.
and not be told that your opinion doesn't matter, or listen to me, I know what's best for you. And then when you start questioning, but I have things that I want to do which I feel is
Mm.
best for me, then why are you dictating? So it's those kinds of mindsets that I try to not really let go of, but question. Like,
Mm.
why do we do these things? Like, why do parents have so many expectations for their children? Why don't they listen? Why is our yeah? I mean, why does our culture? Why is our culture very family centric, but it's not as loving as it's supposed to be? Like
Mm.
being taught conditional things that if you don't do well in school, you are this. If I mean the culture of comparison. Oh, look at this person; they're better than you. Why can't you be like this? So
Mm.
I start questioning those things because I grew up in a culture that's like that. And then you get to see the faults in it. And then when you call people out because of that, they feel offended. And then it makes me question again, where did you learn this? Did you learn it
Mm.
from people who are older than you? Are you aware of all these things? Are you willing to look at it in a different perspective? So it's more of like widening so many things.
Mm.
But as I ask these questions, I'm looking at it without judgment.
Mm. Mm.
I
Mm.
mean, I realize that what's the truth. I mean, my truth will not be yours, may not be the same as yours, and that's okay
Mm.
because in my world or in my own universe, it is true. And but I'm not saying that yours is wrong. It's just that it
Mm.
doesn't apply to me. So
Yeah.
there's just respect in that. But in the Philippines, it's not like that. There are chismosos and chismosas, and just a lot of things that you start questioning. I started questioning until now.
Don't worry, the Aussies do it too. They're also chismosa. It's a universal thing.
I think everyone, I think everywhere there are lots of chismosos and chismosas. It's just that we just have to be aware to just listen and not necessarily use it, see it as the truth. Because,
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, there's a way of doing it that feels good. It's just being interested in other people. There's nothing wrong with that. But
yeah,
there's a way of doing it where where it's actually hurting people. So like anything,
yeah,
it depends on like it's not sometimes it's not the thing, right? It's how you do it. It's a bit like Shibari. If you do it
mm-mm.
out of love, that's different when you're doing it because you actually want to restrain someone because you want to do something that they don't want to do. It's the same.
Yeah,
It's the same act, but it's different in So maybe that's the
yeah,
same with gossiping. I learned a lot. Like when I was young in the Philippines, I used to sit with the old people and even if you know the Tagayan, I don't know if you still do it where they pass the glass. The Aussies
yeah.
can't understand what that is. You share one glass. What's you put ice on your beer? What's going on? Because you never put
True.
ice on your beer. That's ridiculous. Yeah, but I learned a lot of like wisdom listening to the older people because like when they get drunk then they get more honest. It's really
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Their true nature shows. It's like, oh, so this is what being a man is. Oh, it's
yeah.
interesting.
So I feel like when it comes to alcohol, people use it as a way to become more honest because I think from my perspective, a lot of people are afraid to be open without having to resort to different means. Like
Mm,
for me, it's sad that people have to resort to those things in
mm,
order to
mm.
become honest.
Yeah, or vulnerable even to
Yeah,
show some
yeah,
vulnerability. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, maybe it's coming from me. I'm not really a drinker or a
Mm,
smoker. It's more of me telling people, "Oh, why don't you drink?" It's me just saying, "I don't really need it to have a good time."
yeah, and you want to be clear,
I
right? You want to be present. What's
Yeah, that
happening?
and I'm a very naughty person, and I like it when other people get drunk, and then I take care of them, but I like
Mm.
taking evidence. Like I'm going to take videos of you without you knowing. I'm like, and then because most of the time people pass out, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to be a responsible person. I want to take care of you, but I want you to know what happened. I want you to see what happened while you were drunk and not really knowing what's happening. It's me being responsible for you, but at the same time, blackmail material for you. But I don't do that. It's more of like me poking fun at them because of doing that. But I'm not judging them at all. It's more of like, yeah, it's my personality to be naughty, but it's just me being accountable for them. But then again, I don't want to get drunk. I don't want to be in a position wherein somebody else has to go through all that hassle to clean up after me,
Yeah,
to
yeah. It's not
and it's
pretty.
scary too.
Mm,
Yeah, and it's scary too. I mean, you might never know, especially for a woman. there is the scare of rape.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know.
I
Yeah,
mean, and I'm not for it. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna risk it. I mean, I know my
yeah,
friends are okay, but I don't want to be in a position wherein I have to compromise myself. I
yeah,
know I can be
yeah.
responsible for other people, but I don't have any trust in others being responsible as I am
For
to
you.
them.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
it's more like,
yeah.
yeah. For me, it's more of like being accountable for myself also, because I know myself. I know that I can take care. If I can be cloned, I will take care of myself. But I don't want to pressure another person to do that because I have standards. I mean, I push
Yeah.
standards. I mean, if I take care of a person in this certain way, I want to be taken care of in that certain way also. So, um, also, it's more of a mind thing wherein it's easy for me to tap into that happy, joyous state, being open without the use of any alcohol, drugs, or whatever. Because it's my natural state. I mean, if
Mm.
you're content and you know yourself so well that you don't care what other people will think, you're just being you, then I don't really need to tap into that. Sometimes I act more drunk than my drunk friends
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah.
because
People say, what are you having? Can I have it? Nothing. I don't know. Get my blood.
prana
So,
from
and
the
then-
universe.
yeah.
No,
Naturally
because I
high.
start dancing. Yeah, you start
Mm.
dancing. I mean, I love music. So whenever I'm at a bar or something, I just listen to music. I just start dancing, and then I leave the drinks to them. I'll just start dancing because when I start dancing, it makes you even more high.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a beautiful energy, and then you start to
It's a
shine.
body. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather do that, and then you would see your friends drunk or drinking and not having as much fun as you. I'm like,
Yeah.
why? Why? Let loose. Nobody's gonna judge you for dancing. And if they do, they're just jealous that you're dancing. Like you don't give a
Yeah.
fuck.
Did
That's just me.
Daybreaker ever come to the Philippines or not yet?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Daybreaker?
Daybreaker is a sober party, and they do it like they like here they hire. So when I attended every single one in Sydney, like we went to the aquarium at like 5 a.m. You do yoga, and then you
Oh.
do so you do yoga first, and then breakfast, and then you dance until 8:30, so people could still go to work. It's like a morning party
Oh.
that's sober. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh. We
And
don't have
sometimes
that here.
they had an outdoor one, and it's kid friendly. So the kids, some people bring their kids and they dance. So it's a party vibe, but it's sober, and it's in the morning, and it's in interesting places. Like we did one in the opera house, inside the opera house, and one in the tower. So we're like on the top of the tower. That's really pretty cool. It's a cool
That's
experience. Started
fun.
in New
I
York,
mean,
yeah.
I don't think we have that here. But the closest thing I get is because I'm part of a flow community here. So we fire dance and we just flow and dance. So
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah. So what we do or what I do is I'm very active because I live by the park. So and mostly the park that I live near here is more of Ayala Triangle. Most of the people do go to Ayala Triangle to flow, to dance. So because I
Mm,
live near, I'm like, where are you guys?
yeah.
Can we flow this weekend? Do you want
Mm,
to jam? Or if they're busy, I just go there. And
mm,
sometimes even if you just stay there, a lot of people would come by who just want to do it also. So when a jam is formed or when people confirm that they're going, it's mostly like a Saturday or Sunday, and it's from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. pre-COVID. So it was 7 hours of just hanging out, dancing, doing whatever we want to do, lying down. talking about life, eating good food, ordering food, and then just eating there, and then salo
That's
salo.
nice. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's free dancing, and somebody
Yeah.
brings their laptop with really good music, and then
Mm,
it's blasted through Bluetooth speakers, so all of us have the same music, but we have our own flow. So you see different energies and you feel different energies, but we're one community who just have we have this fun and free flowing energy. So it's actually something like that, wherein we just dance for hours or sit and talk for hours and have no agenda, but good fun, good company for hours and
mm,
hours and hours.
that's good. Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing I miss here. So I keep telling people here, like in Manila, you just go out of the house, something will happen because the density is
Yeah, I
there.
mean,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I
Things
mean, if you
happen
go to
everywhere. Everywhere there's something happening.
if you go to the red light district here in Makati before, you just go to a bar and you will see a lot of things happening. So you're like, yep, my night is complete.
Is this in
Yeah,
Poblacion? Or
yeah, in Poblacion.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I mean, everywhere you go, you're like, there's something happening here and then there. Or sometimes, even if you're just standing somewhere near the hostel area, you would find friends. They're like, oh, why are you here? Or if you know the
yeah.
schedule of people, if it's a Friday or a Saturday night, and then you go there after work and you're like, yep, my friends will be here. So it's a regular thing. I feel like it's a Filipino thing. It's a
Yeah.
we are very much creatures of habit
And very
that way.
social. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're in Australia. They're not as, malls aren't as open until late at night, I think. And then for here in the Philippines, malls are open until 10, 11 p.m. And if you're living near Greenbelt, it's open until 2 a.m. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's different. I feel like the Filipinos really just like having fun or is very social that we want to stay out for longer before we go home.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Do you want to ask me questions to make it two-way rather than?
Yeah, sure. I'm thinking about where, I mean, how did you end up being there? I mean, you are Filipino, so I wonder how.
I'm half Vietnamese, and my mom
Mm.
escaped from Saigon by boat, and she chose Australia. Yeah, so
Oh.
I
So how did you learn Tagalog though?
I grew up in the Philippines. So
So your dad is
it's a
Filipino?
yeah, it's a complicated love affair, but and they never got together. So I have my stepmom in the Philippines, but my mom
Mm.
here never married. She's in Adelaide though, so it's like an hour, almost 2 hours by plane. So we see each other a few times a year. That's about it. Hmm.
So how did you become this person who's very much into spirituality or very much in tune with himself? You do practice right? So where did that come from? I mean, you didn't start from there only. So how did the curiosity come? Was it just a spur of the moment thing? I know you shared it in the Sugar and Spice
Yeah.
Festival, but not a lot of people know that how why are you like this?
Why is anyone like? I just like to I do a lot of experiments. Experiment with my life, with my diet, with things, and some of the
Do
experiment.
things once thing. Like I'll do this once to see where this goes.
But then it just goes on.
Yeah. Or I'll do anything once.
As long
just
as
to
it's not,
experience it.
as long as the damage is not permanent, the danger, it's not too much of a danger. I do. Um, I guess I've always been. I grew up feeling I didn't fit in with the world. You know what I mean? I don't know if you have the feeling.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
am I an
The
alien?
weirdo.
Am I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Until I learned to embrace it, and it switched to creativity, and I met people who are also weird and wonderful. You know, who are
Yeah, the weirdos come together all the time.
yeah, and yeah, and I hung out with artists when I was there, and I wrote poetry. It's funny, like when I my earliest poetry, I don't want to read now. I think it's the cliche is true because like they're so bad. But do you write
Yeah,
as well?
actually, the first drafts usually are the cringiest ones. You're like, why did I write this thing? Or why
Yeah,
did
or
I
the high
do this
school
thing?
ones. It's all about love and crushes and
Sawi, pagiging sawi.
yeah, so good.
The heartbreaks. Wherein your crush doesn't like you back, and you're like, the end of the world.
Yeah, going back to the question. Prior to that, I was doing a lot of meditation, third eye meditation, and I felt I was like coming out of the world instead of being in it. And then that's when I thought I need to focus on my sexuality because it's there. I'm ignoring it. And then that's when I
Did you feel detached from yourself when that happened? Like, are you looking so much into your spirituality that you're forgetting that you have this physical body that needs
yeah,
to be
and I think
expressed
it was also
sexually?
more like spiritual bypass. If, you know, I was
Mm-hmm.
bypassing the body, and that it's like you've heard of shadow work. Like if I don't look at my shadow, it's gonna come out in bad ways, and yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
and
not a lot of people look into themselves that way, or you were aware of what's happening in your own state of mind.
yeah,
At least you were. I mean, not a lot of people can catch themselves from that train of thought.
yeah, and I've seen me change because there was a time in my life because I wasn't looking at sexuality. I came out with the creepy energy and women, you know, the hungry, and then
Ah, the repressed
yeah, and women can sense
energy. Yeah.
that. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
but now it's the opposite. Like women just they feel so safe with me and grounded. It's like
Yeah. I mean, I
I could
feel.
I'm totally different. It's like and yeah, it's not that I demonize that side, but I embrace that hungry man and fed it in different ways, in more creative ways, and it's also a lot of one thing I discovered is like we like I don't know if with women with men we like the chase, like I want that woman,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we don't
Yeah.
practice the having. I had it in America. Like I didn't really want this American, or when I was in France, like the colonial mentality. Oh, French, yeah. And then, but when it's actually there,
You're like.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's funny. The first experience of me being intimate with a Westerner, I was excited, but then I found their bodies are harder than I don't know. There's some softness with the Filipino body. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe it's genes.
actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
I realized because when I was with a Western man who is older than me, because I like
yeah.
older men, and I realized that Western skin or Western men's skin is different. The way it
Yeah.
felt. I mean, ours is softer. I mean, even if I compare it to my dad who's older, and then I'm like, oh, his skin is really smooth. But when it comes to Western people, I'm like, why is your skin like this?
Yeah.
I know it's Western skin if I touch it in a way. So I feel
It's a
like
different feel. It's a different feel. Yeah.
yeah, and then I realized that I was like, ah, so is this what Western skin feels?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, and then my first experience with the black woman. That's really like the black
I
people.
never tried.
They're really into. They're really connected to the earth. I really like it. They're really in their bodies. Love it. And it's like raw power.
Ah,
It's something that
oh. Actually, you remind me of someone who told me that we were talking about dancing a while ago. There was this one guy. He's Australian. I met him. He's in Indian Australian, and then he went here to the Philippines, and then he asked me and some friends out to dance and stuff. And then, knowing me, I'm that kind of person that when I dance like no one's watching. I'm like, yes, I'm going to just dance the fuck out of this place. And then I asked him. It was the first time I asked someone how I danced, and he was like, you look so powerful. And I'm like, powerful how? And he said Beyonce. I'm like, Beyonce. And then he expounded wherein, it reminds me of he came from New Zealand before he went to Australia, so he knows the haka. And he
mm,
was reminded of how, women in that culture stamp
yeah,
their
they
feet, and they're just powerful movement,
yeah.
and then it's very much something that overpowers, or rather when you see it, it's very powerful and moving. And then that's what he saw, and I was like, huh, I never knew that. I never knew that the way I danced, projected that kind of energy, because I was like high in movement, and then you saying that the movement is grounded by the earth. And I feel like because I knew where I stood, I knew who I am. It's like, yes, I have the foundation. I have foundation under me, and knowing that I
That's
have
good.
that foundation and connection with myself and the earth, you move with that. So it's like, okay, I never knew that. So yeah, going
That's
back to
good.
you.
No, that's good feedback. Yeah. Yeah, it's like just feeling the it's like life is so interesting, isn't it? If you're curious, it's like it's like every day I'm learning these things. Like what? Are you the
Yeah, I
same?
mean,
Like you look
I'm a person who likes experiencing things at least once. So
yeah.
I'm not afraid to try something, but I'm going to try it at my own time. There was this one time wherein I'm afraid of swimming before, because I drowned when I was a kid. So for me, whenever I want to learn something that I'm afraid of, I have to do it by myself. Somebody has to
Mm,
instruct me from afar, and then when I'm by myself, I'm going to do it, because I don't want anyone else to have that judgment or anything. And if I start doing it again and again by myself, and I become confident in doing it, then I'll show them that I know how to do it. And can you tell me how to improve it? Because that's how my learning process. But there was one time wherein there's this person, it's me putting my boundaries on myself, or for other people to see also, to respect. So we were in the ocean, and I like seeing people go down the water, deep dive. um how do you say that? We're in, they're just diving without
free diving.
their
Yeah.
scuba, yeah, free diving. So
Yeah.
I want to do that in the future, but at my own pace, when I feel comfortable, because I know for me that once I feel safe in myself, in my confidence, in my abilities, then I start pushing it more and more. During that time, he was telling that the person I was with was telling me, "Oh, you just do this," and I'm like, "Nope, I'm not gonna do it just because you told me to. I know you're there, but no, no, no." And then it made me realize that once I want to do something, I have to do it just because I want to, not because another person is telling me that I can do it. I have to convince myself that I can do it, but at my own time, at my own space, at my own
Yeah.
comfortability. Yeah, and I feel like, when I love the essence of being underwater. I never realized that, I was afraid of swimming, but I never knew the beauty of being in the ocean, just feeling the cold water. And I'm very sensitive to so many things. And apparently, I can hear things underwater. And not a lot of people can hear clicking noises inside in the water, but I can hear the little click 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 click, click that I
Ah,
can't
yeah, yeah.
understand why I can hear that, but I can, or maybe because I can tune into things when I'm focusing on something. So I'm just aware that it's fun to be underwater. It's just that I just have to relax into it. Just know that I'm okay. It's 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 something I want to dive deeper into. It's just that COVID COVID has ruined that chance. But you know,
I mean, hopefully we'll get out of this, and then we can travel again.
yeah, but how is your perspective on this COVID thing, this pandemic? This pandemic has actually stopped the world from functioning in a way. Everything
I think
stopped.
it's, and I
Not
think it
really stopped
shows.
totally, but it stopped. The world shut down for a bit. Everyone was sinking, or it was a universal thing. It wasn't just one country, but the whole universe or the whole world experiencing something that hasn't been experienced before. I mean, a friend told me that, wars happened, but it didn't happen all over the world because most of the time it was just these countries, and then other countries were just there to, I mean, in the battlefield. But for the whole world to stop, travel, to stop, everything just because of this. It's a new thing that humanity is experiencing. So what is your perspective in this? Is it a thing wherein we have to look into ourselves as a species, or is it just a fluke in nature? Is it just a
Hmm.
passing thing that we're gonna learn something about, or we're gonna learn a lesson about? So what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, part of this group of people under the loose banner of, we call it Game B, and it's a placeholder of everything that's happened since the agricultural revolution is Game A. This rivalrous dynamics of building empires and building. It's the
Mm.
competition. Everyone's competing with each other.
Competition age. Yeah.
And if you look at the trajectory, it's not looking good, because it used to be fine. Because if something happened in, let's say, in China, America's still fine. But you're right, not everything's linked, and there's a lot of existential threats now. Not just the
Mm.
virus, but there's still nuclear weapons, and then there's genetic engineering. If something goes wrong with that, it's hard to keep the
Mm.
borders as well. The climate is changing, and so if we don't find a way to change what's happening right now, it's not looking good. So I think the virus just shows us how fragile the systems we have built over time is. So it's about time to rethink, and I think it's a good opportunity to rethink how can
Yeah.
we live differently. And like this indigenous aboriginal guy in Australia here, he wrote this book called Santok. I think it's somewhere here. Ah, yeah, it's here. Like where he's talking about the indigenous way of thinking, and we're actually going back to that in the sense that, you know when until recently I thought, how do we judge civilizations, right? We judge, oh, they're good because they left the pyramids, or they left ruins.
Mhm.
But I was thinking, maybe the smarter people didn't leave anything because they moved with the land. So I'm learning a lot about, because the Aboriginal people here in Australia are one of the longest surviving,
Mm.
continuously surviving, and it's because they move with the land, and there must be something with that. That because clearly we need. I mean, the Earth doesn't need us, but we need the Earth. So it's
Yeah.
a weird. We need to save the Earth. No, actually, we don't. We need to save ourselves.
True. I mean,
Like, yeah, we think
it's a
we're the
view.
thing, but we're dependent on plants, with on air, on water. We're the ones
Yeah.
depending on. We're in the system. We're not. I think it's one of the.
We're not the subject of the world actually. We're just a passing thing in the grand scheme of, the universe in a way.
No, I mean, we're special in a way because we're self-aware, but we're also dependent on everything. So
Mm-mm.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
my current experiment now, is on this thinking, always thinking totally instead of just. Because you learn science, right? In the Philippines, we learn a lot, all the subjects. Science is very reductionist. If you want to study
Mm-mm.
something, you reduce it to the smallest. You just take that one out and study
Yeah.
it. But but you can dissect a bee, but you won't understand how a bee works until you see the bee alive. When you kill something and you dissect it, you think you understand it, but you don't.
Yeah.
Like what is you like if I just look at my skin cells, it doesn't really tell me until you see me behaving, and yeah, that's more this holistic way of looking at it. More,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I noticed that. I
mm,
feel like here in the Philippines also, we just look at, oh, this person in government is doing this, but we don't look at it in the sense that, what if the action of this person in government, I mean, like the president in a way, that you may look at him like this, but you don't see his effect until you look at the grand scale of things, which is the whole Philippines. How is the Philippines doing now that he's the one leading? So there are so many things like that. We tend to look at, yeah, what you said. We tend to look at the smallest thing and not looking at everything as a whole.
yeah, and to me, really, maybe we don't really need to rely on the government too much in general.
True.
I mean, because we all know, even in Australia, I mean, they're good, but still people complain that they're less efficient than the private sector. And then why do we expect them to? It's a bit of
True, true.
yeah, we expect a lot from the people. We also expect that they're not good. It's like a weird.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
yeah, but it's complex because you kind of need things like the police. Otherwise, we have to get guns ourselves, and I don't want to live in the world where you have to rely on yourself to
True.
protect. So it's very complex. Yeah, everything's happening at the same levels. Like I'm doing this course now with Nora Bates, and it's called Warm Data Lab, and she talks about the double bind, where
Mm-mm.
it seems intractable. This is a good example of a double bind. When you're lovers, and then someone says, "You don't say you never say you love me."
Mm.
Whatever you answer to that will be wrong. Because if you say "I love you," oh, you're just saying that because I said. But if you don't say anything,
Damn if you do, damn if you don't.
yeah, these are a lot of things in the world are like that. Like with this pandemic, we know that the normal is not where
Isn't
if you
working anymore.
yeah, but then if you don't go back to normal, it will be chaos. It's like, what do we do? How do we then not descend into chaos, but then shift to a better system? It's like, it's like changing
Yeah.
the tires while everything's moving, right?
Yeah, I thought about that actually, wherein before we were our society was living too much in competition,
Yeah.
wherein, oh, I have to be better than this company, I need to earn money. And then it made me realize how companies here or anywhere actually look into how much money they're earning and not necessarily how much people they're helping. Yeah, we're helping people, but you're looking too much at numbers. It's a numbers game. You see it as the end goal. And now that I'm looking into, what's happening, you see people bartering, you see people creating products so that they can help each other out. And I feel like there shouldn't be any competition. Before, yeah, you told me that it was something we used to do. It was the normal back then, but maybe since we've seen how our structures or the way we were thinking before isn't working anymore, we have to move on and look into other possibilities. Maybe don't see it as a competition, but see it as a way to improve more. Like, see it as a way to pull someone up then rather than pushing someone down.
Yeah, and I think it's it's the real mind virus that because like we blame companies, right? But what are companies? It's also made of people doing stuff. But then for some weird reason, oh, it's just business. Like, what does that mean? It's like
Mm-mm.
I don't care if it's business or government or individual. You still have effects on the world, right? You didn't say it's an interesting thing, and also yeah, like with the competition thing. One thing that because I was thinking, how do you create? Because I studied economics. It's like brainwashed into me. You need competition
Mm-mm.
for things.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I realized, there's this guy who said it's like Thor, the Mjolnir. Thor's hammer
Yeah.
is Mjolnir. So to everyone, that hammer is heavy. Even Hulk cannot carry it, but to Thor, it's
Mm-mm.
light. So the idea is, if you find your unique thing, then you have no competition because it's only
Yeah.
one you in the world. So I think what happened
Yeah,
is
yeah.
someone created this artificial idea that everyone should be like that and everyone's competing to be like that. But everyone should just be being themselves and fully. Then we don't need to compete because we want everyone to be unique.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
reminds me of tying. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people do tie. It's just that we have our own personalities tied into that. Or when I tie, it's more of sensual, very much meditative, healing, and very much dancing. When my friends is very educational, very in a way, that's his own style. And then
Yeah, so
it
there's
makes
no
me
need to
think that,
compete between the two of you, right?
yeah,
Because
I
it's
mean,
different. Yeah.
there is no competition. I mean, if we can give out the same thing in terms of when we're teaching, this is what we're teaching. There is a standard. Then go. But when it comes to different flavors, like mine is very sensual. Then if you want to do sensual rope, come to me because I can teach you my ways. And then you can go to this person if you want to tie in this very sadistic way. Blah blah blah. So there is no competition. People will naturally gravitate towards you because of who you are and how you do things. And I
Mm.
realized that. I'm like, people get me because I'm unique. So, I mean, there is no, I mean, as much as I teach people my ways, people will still come to me because it's mine. It's my personality that they're going for. It's
Mm.
my technique. I mean, I can teach techniques, but how I do it, I mean, how
You
I
make it your own,
give my
right? Yeah.
energy. Yeah, I give my energy to it. I give my emotions. I give my thoughts. I give my words. So there is always that thing that they cannot replicate because it's me. It's my person. They cannot recreate what I'm doing. It's even if
Yeah.
they do have the same techniques that I'm going to teach. So yeah.
Yeah, that's I think that's the best answer for when people ask what's your dream job. And then I always say My dream job is to earn money by just being me. That's the best kind of job.
Oh, right there.
That's the best kind
True.
of job, right? That's the best kind of job, right? Just being you. You get
Yeah.
rewarded for being you. Everyone should have that job.
Yeah. I mean, the comfortability that what you're doing is enough and people would pay for it. And, I think that people here, or maybe here in the Philippines, maybe I'm just coming from the mindset of, I mean, here in the Philippines, we come from the mindset of lack. There is always lack, or maybe in the world also, there is always
Yeah, yeah,
this
it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
thing wherein you're not good enough, you have to be this in order to be regarded as good. So there is fear that you are never enough, even if you reach the highest tier of, in that category of your product or your services. There's still this fear that no, it's not good enough. And then you realize, and the fear over money and expenses. People value, or maybe in our society, people equate money to power.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
if I have money, you're regarded more as a person, you're seen as someone in power. I'm like, maybe I'm just in that way of thinking wherein, actually, take away the money, who are you? What can you give
Yeah.
me?
Very
So
interesting.
so
Yeah.
it's my perspective, because I know
Mm.
I'm surrounded by people who don't have money, or don't see money as the end all and be all. And I see them having these wonderful personalities, and there is this culture of bayanihan, or this culture of helping each other out when there's nothing. Because at the end of the day, I'd rather be with a person who has this great personality, who I can vibe with. Even if they have no money, they can exchange it. There's this energy exchange. Money for me is
Yeah.
an energy exchange. So if you can't pay for anything, just give your time and energy. That's energy exchange. There is nothing more that I want from you. I don't need your money. And I feel like when you see money as an energy exchange, or when you take away money as a factor for one being, a human being, to be respected, it makes me question, okay, what personality do you have? Without the money, without the power, without the position that you have, what personality will you show me? Because this is who I
Yeah.
am. I mean, take away the money, this is my person. Take away that money and power from you, who are you?
Mm.
It it makes me question, and it makes them question themselves. Do you
Mm.
know who you are without this one? You see
Yeah.
yourself as this, but
If
if
you
I
lose
strip you
everything,
down,
actually. Yeah.
yeah, because again, we're very much our materialistic world. We look into money and accumulation of it. So it's just a new perspective wherein I challenge people that, yes, you have this, but what can you give me once
Yeah.
it's taken away?
I think the world is coming to that. Like, I mean, the wealthiest countries also have the highest rates of suicide and mental issues. So it's clear proof that it's money is not the answer to everything. I mean, one needs like a minimum amount to survive, but after that, I don't think it adds a lot.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
I
it can
mean,
be problematic if you need to, if you're always worrying about it. But yeah, you're right. There's something deeper. That's
yeah. So I feel like I'm at that point wherein I do have a day job, and it's enough to pay for my everyday life, and that's okay with me. I'm like, I'm not gonna seek something better, because I know the universe will take care of me in so many ways, in ways that I cannot think of. Or if I do, I know it's going to have my back. It's just that my focus now is, how can I help people? At the end of the
mm,
day, does it fulfill my soul? I mean, my money fulfills my needs, but the other things that I do is to fulfill my soul and to
mm,
fulfill other people's life as well. So that's how I see it. Like, I don't it's more of like, that's why I question it.
mm, mm,
I'm
mm,
this, take it as take me as I am, and I'll show you that even if you do have that kind of money, I'm not gonna rely on that to be with you as a person. So it reminds me of a session I had with this person. He's a businessman from the US, and we had a session together, and we were eating dinner, and then he told me, never once, because he's a businessman, of course he can afford this luxury hotel, and he can afford to pay for the food and other things. So when we were together, he was telling me, never once did you ask me for anything. If it's anything I can give you, anything I can physically, you know, give you, just tell me. And then I just looked at him. I stared blankly far away. I looked into myself. I'm more like, what else can I ask of him? The answer was none. And then I just looked at him and said, there is nothing I want to ask from you. Nothing at all. Nothing comes up because I'm happy spending time with you. I don't really need your money. I'm just happy that you chose to be with me. You chose to show up. You chose to let go in our session, and I'm happy
That's
with
it.
that.
Yeah,
But
that's it.
yeah, and he couldn't understand why I was not asking for anything else. It's like,
To him, yeah,
that's
someone
it.
who's in the world of commerce. Yeah, that's one of the thing with is no commerce. You do things
Yeah,
because you want to do it, not because of
and there was
bargaining.
no
You know.
expectation.
Mm,
Like I told
mm.
him, what you did was already beyond. You actually you gave more than enough. Why do you feel as if there's something that you have to still give?
Yeah.
Maybe during that time I did give him a really good session. That's why I was feeling so guilty that I'm not asking for anything. I was like, I don't
I
have
don't know.
to.
It's
Yeah,
really
it's more of like that. Like you cannot buy these things once you're satisfied with what the other person can give, and you have no expectations. It actually feels good. Like, yeah, I
yeah.
just love spending time with you. But then again, what I told him was when I was with him, I slept over at his place at the hotel room. I'm naughty, so I was like lying down, or actually sitting down on the bed. And then I was looking at him and said, I think I want to stay for the night. And then he said, your wish is my command. I was like, yay, now let's eat. So it's just me being naughty, but
Yeah.
of course it was me poking fun. I never actually intended to stay, but when he said okay, I'm like, okay, I'm going to stay.
Why not?
So yeah, and he got spoiled. I feel like that's why he felt guilty, was because I was spoiling him so much.
Uh,
When you're in BDSM, you go to sessions because you want to express a part of yourself
yeah.
that you normally see. But as a person who's very affectionate, during that time I saw that he was so deprived of affection.
Yeah.
As a person who's very tactile, I know when somebody's reaching out to me. The way I was touching him was more of like caressing like that. The way he was touching me was like he was pulling me, and I'm like, okay, this person is touch deprived and he just wants to go at it.
Yeah.
So reading into that energy after the session, I went into my my personality wherein I'm very affectionate. I started kissing him all the time on the cheeks. He's not my boyfriend, but it's more of like I know that he would want this also because the urge was there. I'm like, this
Mm.
doesn't normally come out. But when it does, it's in full bloom because I he's enabling me. I know that his energy is asking for it. So
Mm.
when when I was doing it, his face was more of like, I'm so happy. His face was like, like a baby.
Mm.
When I scratched the back of his head, it was like, like it feels like he wants to cry from wanting to have a person do that to him,
Mm.
because I started kissing his cheeks a lot, and then gave him massages and stuff, and I even asked him to asked him if I can give him a bath. So, and then I asked him if he has ever experienced that, and he said no, nobody
Mm,
has ever
mm.
asked to give me a bath. And I'm like, I'm gonna give it to you because I want you to be spoiled when you're with me. I want to give you the best session ever. So I did spoil him. And then what he told me was like, I'm not never gonna go back to real life knowing that somebody can spoil me in this way. And I'm like, that feels so good to hear because
Mm,
again, I heard this from uh Blackson, an educator, a kink and BDSM educator in the US. He said, they said that they want that another person who goes into their session be a better person than when they go out.
mm,
I mean, they want the person to be better than when they went into the session. So
mm,
it's a good thing to give that to another person, to have that experience wherein you make them so happy that
mm, mm,
they will carry it with them even if
mm.
you don't meet anymore.
They'll never
It's
forget
those
it.
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And sometimes I check in on him and he's still that kind of person wherein I want to go back to the Philippines. I want to see you. I want to be spoiled by him. Like, COVID, man. We're stuck. But it just means that maybe it is time for everyone to just relax and know that things will get better. It's just that we just take time.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm sick already. I'm sick and tired of being alone.
It will pass. It will. Yeah. I think we're gonna be able to travel again. Mm,
Sooner or later. But
yeah.
then again, it really is a time to look into ourselves. I feel
Mm,
like I'm busier
mm,
now than I was when the pandemic wasn't here.
mm,
Like I guess I focused so much energy before in going out, and I know I tune into myself, but maybe this time is the time we're in. Okay, you're gonna experience 5 months, 5 to 6 months of loneliness without any other person. So how will you deal with it? And during this time, I realized how my body started feeling aches and pains that I never felt. Yeah, I mean, I never knew it. And then I
mm,
started researching because I thought it was the position of my body when I work or when I do something. But then I realized, hey, I've been doing this for 5 years, for almost 5 years, and nothing of this sort has happened before. Never did I experience pain like this or joint pain wherein joint or nerve pain because I felt like my nerves were the ones causing the pain. So I'm very much aware of the nerves of my body because I do rope, so
mm,
I know what to pinpoint. So I was aware of it. But then the funny thing is, this one, the right arm, the right hand, the wrist, and arm acted up. After a few days, it switched from here to here. And then after a few days, it's both. And then after a few days, it reached down to my feet. And I was questioning, where is this coming from?
mm.
This isn't normal. I mean, I started the researching on how the brain tries to mask emotions or things that it doesn't want to be expressed
Mm.
through physical manifestations. And as a person who looks into myself, I was actually being aware that I might be experiencing something traumatic or something that's beyond my comprehension as of this moment consciously that my brain is trying to mask. So I had to look into that. I had to acknowledge that I may be experiencing something that I've never felt before, that I have to, how do you say this? That I have to move with. I have to
Mm,
be
mm,
okay with. I have to acknowledge that, I'm experiencing this pain maybe because my body knows my body knows more than my mind.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah.
if it's experiencing something, then there's something deep and very alarming. So
Mm,
I went
mm,
into that. I did some affirmations. I also did some healing work inside myself. Of course, sometimes it manifests still. It's just that I catch myself, unlike before,
mm,
wherein I don't know where yeah. That's why I don't drink medicine or whatever. It's because I want to be in tune. Why am I hurting? I don't want to mask anything
Just
that
feel it,
that
yeah.
my yeah, and I know my body is perfect, and I know my body can heal without inducing it in a state wherein I'm taking drugs that might cure cure the ailment, but not necessarily the cause of
Mm,
the
mm,
pain.
mm.
So yeah, so it's actually a wonderful time. I realized that I'm lonely, but as a person whose love language is physical touch, of course I couldn't touch a lot of people. Yeah, I can only touch myself, but
Yeah.
it's so different when you cuddle something and it's not cuddling you back. When your pillows aren't enough anymore. Well, of course, it made me realize that a while I can't handle that, or I cannot feel that love language. My body reverted to seeing other people online, words of affirmation, time, because when you're online with other people, you video chat. That's also, it feels as if you're there when you're not physically there. So I have to adjust. But I know once this is over, I'll be all over people. And I realized, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Plus,
yeah,
I
yeah.
realized also my sex drive is so low. I mean, in terms of, I know people want to have sex with me. It's just that for me, I'm like, no, I don't think my energy is that way. I mean, I still get horny. I still masturbate. It's just that for now, because I'm so deprived, or my mind is into compensating for that lack with other things. I'm like, I have to be in this path because I know this pandemic will still be there for the end of the year or until half the year next year. So I have to just ride the wave. And of course,
Yeah.
I do have people to cuddle with from time to time. It's more of like, okay, this is the cuddle time that I can get, so might as well make it a really good one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sleep with other people. Yeah. So it's actually a really good time to better yourself.
Yeah,
I guess.
know yourself better. Yeah.
Yeah, and there is fear of the unknown, but then again, in everyday life, there is that fear. I mean, it's just that this pandemic, maybe in a way, it's not as scary as it should be. It's just that maybe because of how media is putting it out there that it's this and this, which causes everyone to feel a certain panic that seeps through everything in media, in the way we talk about things. Sometimes maybe this is my perspective. Maybe that negativity is what causes us to not be as healthy and be vulnerable to that kind of to the pandemic itself. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's everywhere already, it just means that you have to stay healthy because that's the only thing you can do. I mean, it's already
Yeah.
there. It's just that we just have to be or vibrate in a higher level so that we don't really compromise our body. But it's just
Yeah.
my perspective.
Yeah. We need to learn to live with it. It's just new. That's why, and then it's
Yeah,
gonna. Mm,
it's like how the flu was, influenza basically.
mm.
It's just something new that's undiscovered, and it's just that because of technology and because we travel all the time, we do things all the time. We're social people, or we're social beings. We can't prevent it
Yeah,
from
it's gonna
spreading. It's
happen. Yeah, pandemics will happen from time to time. It's
Yeah, it's
happened
just that
before. It's gonna happen again.
yeah, it's just that we're not prepared for this strain. It's just
Yeah.
that we just have to be, I guess, prepared in a way wherein it's okay, it's going to pass. You know, if things go this way, it's not the end of the world. I
Yeah.
guess it's a movement. I mean, whatever happens is happening because it's permitted, or it's because that's what the universe is,
I
where the
remember.
universe is flowing.
Be like the bamboo. It bends with the wind, so it doesn't break.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as much as so many things are coming at us, we just have to flow.
Yeah, I think that's where Filipinos are good at that. From my experience, we always have humor even
Going
in
with
the
the flow.
worst, and also even in the
Yeah.
worst case, people still have humor. I kind of like that.
Yeah, we're like, oh well.
Yeah,
But we still do the work. Like, I don't want to do this, but oh well.
bahala na si Batman.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then even if we complain about it, we still do it. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't want to do it. Still does the thing. Because we
yeah.
know that it's going to pass. It
Yeah.
maybe this is the for now, this is our threshold of the things that we're going through as a race. Wherein this is the highest point we have to reach first, and
Yeah, it's like
then
it's the
after,
next
yeah, I mean, this is the next hurdle, and then afterwards, if there's another
evolution.
pandemic, yeah, after this, and then there's another pandemic. Now we know how to react, because this is the first time
Yeah,
that
yeah.
this happened. So
The first in our
I guess,
lifetime. Yeah.
yeah, and when we just don't know how to navigate through it, because
Yeah.
everything is new and no one knows what to do, and there is no foreseeable future because there we are still creating it. And I feel
Yeah.
like in the next time that this happens, we already have a threshold, or we have something to look back upon and be like, oh, we did this. Then
Yeah.
let's go back to that and then improve, improve. So
Yeah.
I feel like there's a
So
hopeful future for this
yeah,
one.
yeah. Yeah, me too. On that note, I think we could end
Are you
this one.
okay?
Yeah, I mean, I was just feeling, yeah, maybe we could call this one and then we could do another one in the future.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more than open to that.
Yeah. It seems that there's more things there coming from you and me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like I think this is a fun thing to talk about, wherein
Yeah.
it's these are topics that are very controversial. Not a lot of people would think in this way, and I've never had anyone to talk about it in a way that's very spiritual. And I feel like a lot
Yeah.
of people,
Yeah.
when I do talk about these things in a spiritual light, where I'm hopeful, and then this pandemic is just this passing thing. They're like, what? Are you discounting the fact that this is happening? Like, no, it's just that I'm looking at it in a different perspective, in a
Yeah,
spiritual perspective.
it's more of a feeling as well rather than a
Yeah, actually,
calculation. Yeah.
it's a feeling that we're okay. It's just that relax. We just need to relax.
Yeah, I think we've underestimated the power of sense making through feeling. Yeah, I think I'm I'm I myself have been exercising that more. This
Yeah, I
feel.
see you dancing.
Yeah, it's fun. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. That was so
Have
good.
Yeah, yeah. Have a good sleep,
Yeah, you
and
too.
yeah, yeah, and yeah. I
See you again
guess it's
soon.
okay to publish this, right? Or
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah, and then we could do another one. Good night.
Night, night.
Is it the Asian thing?
Yes.
Night.
Bye bye. Thank you.